Hello everybody, and welcome back to Planet Coaster 2, and welcome back to Silver Sands. We are here for another episode today, and I think we're just going to get straight into it. We're going to start here today at this end of the midway here. There's been a few little very minor updates to some things in this direction, which I will update you on properly once I've done a bit more work. But the thing that we're going to start with today is this absolutely beautiful Roadrunner Music Express, which was built for me by my good friend Ruble Trillions. Just to talk a little bit about Ruble, I go way back with Ruble, way back in like 2017 or so, I want to say. I can't remember what inspired him to do this, but he invited me to contribute to Jubilee Gardens, the park he was working on with Commando Santa. Doing that basically like sort of catapulted me to where I am now, because I did that, and then as off the back of that I got invited to go on Bro Coaster. You know, I got to know Mike and John and all those other lovely people, Kinderly, Redline, you know, everyone over on Bro Nation, really. Yeah, I think I probably wouldn't be making this series right now had I not worked with Ruble all the way back in 2017. So yeah, very grateful to have this contribution from Ruble in the park here. I noticed that he was sort of dabbling in the game again, so I snuck into his DMs and asked him if he was up for making me a Music Express cover, which he very graciously agreed to do. And the end result is this absolutely beautiful, stunning Music Express called Roadrunner. He's done this amazing custom sign for it, which is made out of a very large amount of this tiny metal support beam. I think we can pretty safely say at this point that this park isn't going to run on console, because there's going to be quite a few custom signs made out of tiny pieces. But yeah, I mean, it's well worth it because it just looks absolutely amazing, and the LODs on it are really good. You know, you can view it from quite some distance and it holds up completely. It's just a really simple cover that kind of fits in nicely with the rest of the park. I know that traditionally, like, there are like kind of fairground versions of these have these very large sort of ostentatious covers with lots of lights, and but I found an example of one. I can't remember the name of the park, but I will show a picture of the reference that I sent to Ruble. And obviously I said, you know, you don't need to do this exactly, and indeed what he's done is not really that similar, but it's like the idea really was just to have this very basic kind of like cover structure covering the ride. And yeah, he's absolutely smashed it. It looks amazing. He's also finally convinced me to start using the mod that hides the entrance and exit gates from the platforms. Obviously they do like phase through these gates, but it looks so much cleaner and more sort of realistic, especially for this type of park. But yeah, absolutely beautiful work from Ruble. Can't thank him enough. As I said, not only for this particular ride, but for everything he's done for me over the years. He's a legend, and I don't know if he's about to come back to YouTube. He said he was thinking about making a video about this build in particular, so hopefully he's going to do that. If he does, there'll be a link to it in the description under this whenever it comes out. And then otherwise, coming up, I've got a couple of plans. Basically, I need to figure out what I'm going to put in the corner next to the zipper back there. I think I've got a vague idea of what I want to put here, and then I'm going to make a sign for the zipper just to give it a proper kind of this was bought from a fairground kind of vibe. And then over in this direction, I've got kind of a nice idea of something I want to build here. I bought a book recently that's all about pop architecture in California. It's full of absolutely amazing imagery, as you can imagine, but it's given me a very specific idea that I want to try and put into this space here. So yeah, that's the plan. And I'll see you on the other side. Woohoo indeed. Okay, we are back. And just like last time, many things have occurred. Many new things to show and tell. So let's crack on. I think we're going to start at this end this time. First, and probably most obvious thing, is that we've now got the zipper sign on the zipper, which is probably where it should be. I've got this queue path here built as kind of an implied queue, but this causes the guests to kind of bunch up here in a rather unsightly way, so I think I might have to cave and just build this as an actual queue path. But yeah, for now it's literally just fence, like you're going to see here, that if these guys are getting on the ride. It's not so bad, I don't know. Anyway, really chuffed with how this sign came out. It's all just art shapes, and then I've used this in a couple of other places now, but I guess it's worth pointing out that it's the coaster attachment headlight, which used to be on the coaster train that was themed like a car. I don't know which one it was actually. But yeah, it's this little headlight here, which is really useful for doing these kinds of little light bulby type decorations. Yeah, I used it on this ice cream stand here as well, like all the way around this signage here. So yeah, that's the zipper. Really pleased with how that's come out. And then on the right side here, I've just set up a little kind of dirt track access point for vehicles through a little gate here from the car park. I guess while we're over here, I'll also just point out, while Ruble was working on the flat ride, he dumped this bin into the file because he found it on the workshop and thought it was cool. And it is cool. Because I didn't put it in here, I'm not sure who made it, but I will figure that out and put a link in the description. I think he just placed it here, not necessarily intentionally, but I actually thought it was quite funny having this little like smelly trash area right next to the motel pool. So once again, you've got the zipper and the trash area, just really kind of killing the vibe here. And then over in this left hand corner, I thought maybe this would be a good sort of access point for a little bit of a backstage area and maybe some sort of staff offices. So we've got this kind of raised up structure here that's kind of raised up above this little garage area. Had quite a lot of fun building this out with a mixture of workshop stuff and then custom made stuff. We've got Fogg's little Henry Hoover. I know that I'm not sure if they have Henry Hoovers in America, but I just couldn't resist using this because it just works perfectly for this little area. And then the fire extinguisher, which is made by NJC. Again, links will be in the description for all of these workshop bits. And then there's these amazing like workshop, not workshop in the game, but workshop in real life kind of tools. Got a press here and a lathe. These are made by Captain Trash Panda and they are just absolutely amazing. Same for the welder. I think that's also Captain Trash Panda, but I need to double check on that and I'm extremely sorry if I've gotten that wrong. And then these cans of WD-40 are made by Ginge and I just love those as well. And then all the rest of this clutter, the shelves and all the stuff on the shelves, I just made that myself. Oh yeah, this forklift as well, also from the workshop. Yeah, this is really nice. I really like this. And this kind of inspired me a little bit. I was looking for kind of like golf carty maintenance type carts on the workshop. There are a few on there, but if I'm in the right mood, I really enjoy making stuff like this. So I thought it would be quite a fun sort of little thing to do. Get one up on the workshop that looks really nice for everyone to use. And yeah, it's based on the ClubCar Carryall 550. They do actually come with various different options on the back, so I think I might make a little fleet of these and there'll be one with like a box. Yeah, a couple of different options. But yeah, it's a golf cart. It is 1,300 pieces, so it's not exactly super well optimized, but I was dead chuffed with how this came out. And again, it's on the workshop. The link will be in the description. And I think that mostly covers the stuff down this end to talk about. So that means we need to come back over this way. I guess first thing to talk about here would be the arcade. We are using Jonty's awesome arcade technique in here of taking a gift shop, setting that up as the prize counter, and in fact we've got some on here, and then you sort of bury the shop shelving units inside the arcade machines and you get this kind of interaction, and then once they've finished interacting with the machines, we've got someone else here, look, obviously they don't push the buttons or anything, but once they're done interacting they come over to the shop counter here and they collect their prizes, and it just works really well. It's kind of awesome. I kind of love it. But yeah, in terms of the interior, it's super simple, like, ugly drop ceiling, bright colours, American flag on the wall. I don't know what these two are doing, they're just kind of staring at this shelving unit. And then I kind of wanted to break up this facade on the outside because otherwise this was just going to be super long. So I thought it would be fun to play around with kind of splitting the building in half, and maybe this second half was just built as a super cheap extension at some point, or maybe this end would have been built after because this is a little bit more modern with the drop ceiling and the metal framework, and then maybe this was the original building and it's this kind of, it's all wood panel and wooden beams. Dead chuffed with how this has all come out. And again, I mentioned it last time, but these are almost all, I think, arcade machines made by Josh, who's got loads of sets on the workshop, and they're just, they're amazing. They look really good. Yeah, dead chuffed with how that's come out. And then I guess the next sort of proper big thing to talk about would be this little donut stand, which was largely inspired by Randy's Donuts in Los Angeles. And yeah, as I think I said in the first part, I was kind of put onto the idea for this by the book California Crazy, which is a book about American pop architecture. And the book is largely about the kind of boom of this sort of style of architecture, particularly in California, and the kind of combination of things that was happening there in the early 20th century that kind of facilitated a lot of this kind of stuff. And a lot of it is big thing on top of the building, telling you what the building has. So yeah, Randy's Donuts has got this giant donut on the roof. That was the main thing that I really wanted to do. The rest of the structure is kind of just a freestyle, kind of googie mid-century-ish thing with this sort of slightly angular design with the big kind of overhanging canopy area. This donut machine here is made by Ginge. It was the kind of combination of I found this on the workshop ages ago, and then when I saw the Randy's Donuts thing in the book, I was like, oh, that would actually be perfect. Big donut on the roof, and then a window where you can see the donut machine, and then the rest of the design kind of came out from there. I really like the idea of having a sort of round counter at the end. And obviously this is a non-functioning building. I did try to work one of the counters in. In order for it to work with this, it had to be pretty far back, and it just looked ridiculous. So I think I'm happy to just settle for this being non-functional, at least for the time being. Maybe if we get like the invisible counter mod, I think they had it in Zoo, I would definitely update this with a counter. I think in terms of workshop stuff in here, obviously the donut machine by Ginge, checkout and card machine is made by Tom. These little donuts, I mean, they're super simple. I could have definitely just made these myself, and in fact I think I did make those ones over there myself. But these technically came from this like massive set of cupcakes that somebody made. These bottom two kind of things on the right hand rack here are from Drivitt's amazing bakery counter, and then these coffee flask thingies are classic Pac-Man. Other than that, it's all custom. I've got to give a massive shout out to Duct Tape Forum for putting me onto this idea of having pink donut boxes, which is apparently a massive thing in Southern California. And as soon as he said it, I was like, oh yeah, you do always see that like in films and TV shows and stuff, like the pink box full of donuts. So makes perfect sense, and it really kind of sells the look of the whole thing, having these pink boxes on the counter there. Around the other side, you've got this kind of cool window into the sort of workstation where they're dipping the donuts in the glaze and piping them full of filling. And again, from this end, you can just see above the counter there, we've got storage for more boxes and paper towels and stuff. So yeah, that is the donut stall. I guess I can also quickly just point out that the Sizzler, I've slightly updated this. Now that we're using the invisible gates mod, it's kind of, this fence is tucked back a little bit. I think the ride pad technically starts like here maybe. The actual gate is more or less where I'm standing. And then yeah, we've got this little kind of filled out this bit of the ride pad here with some trees and a bunch of spare bits of fencing. We've got Ginge's WD-40 again, plus this little kind of toolbox from Ginge as well. And then yeah, I thought some umbrellas for shade might be a good idea in this park actually, so I should probably spam more umbrellas. But yeah, I like the idea of having those just in the queue here. Kind of gives a nice vibe. And then this is the first non-palm tree. Besides, I think that there's one over behind the hotel there. It's a eucalyptus, which they do have in California. I don't know. And I think technically like Palm Springs, at least when you're in the city of Palm Springs, like, it's not a complete desert town. So I don't think it's completely nonsensical to have kind of other trees, but I want to use them fairly sparingly because I don't want the park to end up being too kind of luscious. I want it to feel relatively kind of hot and arid, so it's going to be mostly palm trees with the odd little other tree sprinkled around here. I just thought it worked quite nicely compositionally. As you're coming from this point, you've got this nice kind of row of palms around the Sizzler, and then this kind of lower tree with the Helter Skelter popping up behind it. And I suppose I haven't finished the Helter Skelter yet, but I should probably mention it since it's in the file right now. Yeah, I kind of wanted to try and get at least a couple more slightly more vintage or retro flat rides in. The kind of offerings on that front are pretty slim in the game right now. Obviously in Planet Coaster 1 we had, by the end of the game, we had loads of amazing vintage flat rides like the rocker plane and the roller plane and the other ones that I can't remember the names of, the whippy one, and yeah, anyway, we don't have any of those now. We do have a Helter Skelter, and I know that this is primarily a British thing, but I did a little bit of research and I found sufficient examples of them existing in the States. Apparently they're particularly popular at fairgrounds. And since the kind of flat ride lineup at this park seems to be mostly, we bought it from a state fair kind of vibes, I feel like this kind of makes sense in that kind of light. And I based this kind of colour scheme off of an image I saw of one that was in Canada at a park which I don't think exists anymore. And yeah, I just thought it looked really fun and had a very nice kind of vintage retro style to it. And yeah, I think it actually works really nicely in the park here. It's a really nice like colourful addition to the skyline of the park. It looks really cool as you're walking down the midway here in this direction, and it looks awesome from outside the park here as well. So vibes are occurring. I'm dead chuffed with how everything's going. Oh, one last thing to point out actually is these cars. Somebody on Bro Nation posted a bunch of cars from this creator saying how good they are, and they weren't wrong. Kind of perfect vibes for this particular project, in fact. Again, I will put a link in the description. But yeah, I think that's basically everything for today's update. Thank you for joining me as always, and thank you for all the love and support on the channel. Apologies that it's been a couple of weeks since the last episode. My real life has become a bit crazy over the last couple of weeks, so yeah, work has been slow, but we got there in the end, and I'm dead chuffed with this update actually. Now that we're kind of extending the midway further in this direction and the sight lines are really starting to sort of I mean, I say sightlines, obviously it's not like a curated Disney sightline, but you know, the views down the Midway now are really starting to come together. The park's really starting to feel like a park. Thanks again to Ruble for the amazing Music Express. Next update, not exactly sure what it's going to be. I've got several little ideas cooking up, so watch this space, and I'll see you next time. Bye!